Hi guys! So I'm back with the second video in my series, I guess, where I'm talking about the book series that I have started but not yet completed, either on purpose or by accident, and also the book series that I plan to start in the future. So this video is going to be the book series that I do plan to continue reading. And the first one I want to mention is my most recently started series. It's the Tensorate series by J.Y. Yang. I read The Black Tides of Heaven last month for the Asian Readathon and I really enjoyed it. I loved the world building. It's an Asian inspired fantasy novella and all of the books in the series are novellas, which I wish they were actual longer books because the main issue I had with The Black Tides of Heaven was it just wasn't long enough and it wasn't as in-depth as I wanted it to be. I wanted more from the story. I wanted to connect with the characters more. I wanted to spend more time with them. And I didn't really get that because it is a novella, but I love the world so much and I love the magic and the whole society that I definitely want to continue in the series and learn more about that. I'm pretty sure the next books in the series don't follow the same characters. I think they're individual stories set in the same world, which is fine by me because what I'm mainly interested in right now is the world. The next series that I'm planning to continue is the Winternight trilogy by Katherine Arden. I have the second book here that I am, yes, currently reading. This is a Russian fantasy about a girl who can see all of the creatures of Russian folklore in real life. It's very atmospheric. I love the descriptions of the scenery and the world. It really transports you into this frigid, snowy Russia, and the folklore elements coming to life are just so interesting. I don't know anything about Russian folklore, so I am really fascinated by all of the creatures and all of the different stories that they tell in this book. Stories play a really big role in this book, and it really adds to the whimsy of the series, and it really transports me to a different place, which I absolutely love. So it's a trilogy. I'm currently reading the second book and I might hold on to the third book for winter time because as much as I love reading about the winter atmosphere right now when it's getting very hot in my apartment right now, I think it would be even better in the winter. And I read the first book in December of last year, so it was amazing and I'm really enjoying it so far. The next series that I'm going to continue is the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett. I think this is book 11? I actually have one more book that I need to read before this, but all of these copies that I have are my father's copies and he just doesn't have the book right before this, so I'm going to check that out from the library and then I'm going to get to this, and then I also have 3 more of the books on my bookshelf right now and more of them at home in my parents' house that I will be getting once I finish everything on my shelf. But this is a fantasy series that's just so crazy and funny. It's set on a world that's a disc. It's the Discworld, and it's on the backs of 4 elephants who are riding on the back of the giant space turtle Atuin. And that kind of just sets the picture for how wacky and fun this world is. All of these books follow a bunch of different characters. There's smaller series within the main series, and you could read them individually like that, but I'm just reading them chronologically because that's what I feel like doing. And they're nothing super deep or anything. There is commentary about society in all of them, but it does it in a way that's super lighthearted and just makes you laugh all the time, and I really enjoy this little escape into the Discworld. So I will be reading the complete series. I think there's 20 or 30 books. I'm not really sure, but I can't wait. The next series that I want to continue, though I can't yet for a very specific reason, is totally just destroyed my lights while grabbing this, but the Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. I obviously can't finish the series yet because we've been waiting for the third book for ages. This is the 10-year, 15-year anniversary edition of Name of the Wind. I did get it signed. It's great. I'm so happy with it. And this is probably my favorite fantasy book ever. One of my favorite series of all time, up with Mistborn right there. This is about a man telling his life story, and he's this sort of legend that's done all of these ridiculous, crazy magic things, and It's just written so beautifully. It's very lyrical in a way that really draws you into the magic of this story. I'm a sucker for lyrical writing. There's a reason I enjoy Shakespeare, and when you mix really nice, pretty prose with fantasy, it's just like my perfect combination. So I love this book and the series so much. I've read the other two books, The Wise Man's Fear and Slow Regard of Silent Things, which is a novella that's not really continuing the story, but was still something that I really loved. Anyway, I've read both of those, just waiting on the third book in the series that is nowhere near completion, but I will definitely be reading it once it comes out. I'm going to reread the series right before it comes out, if it ever does come out. But at the same time, I'm totally fine with waiting for it because I know Patrick Rothfuss is going to do a great job with it. And if it's something that he's taking this long to perfect, I know that it will be worth it. Another series that I recently started is the Riyria Revelations by Michael J. Sullivan. I have read the first two books, Theft of Swords and Rise of Empire. I thought they were okay. I have a complicated relationship with this series because I really enjoy fantasy, and so I like reading the classics that sort of paved the way for fantasy today. But at the same time, I definitely don't think this is a quality fantasy series. It is very basic and relies on a lot of fantasy tropes. It's about these two like ridiculously good thieves who can basically do anything, and their adventures in this magical world, and there's like an evil church and like an all-powerful wizard and elves and dwarves and monks and everything. So it's very classic to the point that it's predictable and cliche, and I don't really feel much for the characters. I know that a lot of people really love the banter between the two main guys, and I just sort of cringe at it. I don't think it's done really well, and the plot is kind of scattered, but at the same time it's just so cozy and classic that it's really easy to fall into and just binge read. I actually listened to most of them at work, and it was really easy to get through that way because I was doing really mindless things and I could just lose myself in this fantasy world, and it wasn't really hard to understand because it's something that like I'm very familiar with these sort of tropes and where the story was going, and the writing isn't too flowery or anything. It's really simple and straightforward and easy to listen to. So it's not really very unique, but it's still enjoyable in a way. I really disliked the second half of the second book, but that's like a different story. You can check my wrap up if you want to see all of my thoughts on that, but it's still something that I want to continue, and I actually will be starting Heir of Navron, the third book in the series, very soon. Another classic series that I want to continue in is the Earthsea cycle by Ursula K. Le Guin. I read the first book, The Wizard of Earthsea, last December or 2 Decembers ago. Maybe 2 Decembers ago. And similar to the Riyria Revelations, it's very classic and a little bit tropey, but that is also because it is older, and it's one of those series that did start all of the tropes, and it has influenced a lot of modern fantasy. So I'm really interested in reading it. Plus the writing is that very flowery, whimsical writing that I personally enjoy. The first book wasn't my absolute favorite, but I thought it was still really interesting and worth continuing in series. It can be a little bit slow, and it's told in this sort of like fairy tale type writing style that makes you a little bit detached from the characters, but at the same time it feels so classic and so much like a fairy tale that it's also enjoyable from that perspective. So it's a little bit of a different fantasy novel for me, and I'm still interested in continuing the series, so I plan to get back to that at some point in the future. And the last series that I'm going to mention is the Howl's Moving Castle series by Diana Wynne Jones. I am going to be rereading this book very, very soon for the Ghibli-a-thon, and I have also read the second book, The Castle in the Sky, which I also lent to someone and never got it back, so that's very annoying. But I didn't realize there was a third book in the series that I've never read, so I am definitely going to be picking that up again once I reread this, reread the second one, and then pick that up. This is about a girl who gets cursed by a witch, and then she gets taken in by this really eccentric wizard, and his house that walks And it's just such a fun story. I remember loving it as a kid, so I'm super excited to be rereading it very soon, especially because I will be going to the Ghibli Museum in Tokyo when I go to Japan. Oh my gosh, at the end of the month. Oh wow. Every time I think about it, it shocks me how close it's getting. But I'm very excited for that and for this book and to continue the series and see where it goes. I know the second book was a little bit odd, like the characters in this book didn't show up again in the second book until like the very end. So it kind of felt disconnected when I read it. I read it years ago, so I don't really remember, but that's the general feeling that I can remember from it. So it'll be really interesting to visit it again and see what I think about it as an adult. So those are all of the series that I have started and plan to continue. Let me know if you've read any of these series or what series you have started and haven't gotten around to continuing yet, but you definitely plan to finish at some point in the future. I am very interested. So I will see you later. Bye.